Picture this. You're standing right in the heart of Tokyo, underneath these huge gleaming government towers. I mean, a total symbol of wealth and power. And then you see it, right there in the shadow of it all, a little settlement of blue tarps. But here's the thing that really gets you. It has its own solar panels. A tiny, self-sufficient world right there.
It's a contrast that just stops you in your tracks. And you can't help but ask, how is this even possible here? So that's the big question we're going to try and answer. And believe me, the answer is way more complicated than you'd think. All right, let's get into it.
Okay, so the first thing you have to get your head around is that homelessness in Japan is, well, it's just different. It's not what you might picture if you're thinking about North America or Europe. We really have to throw out some of our usual ideas to see what's actually happening.
And the difference is pretty dramatic. You know, in North America, homelessness is so often tied up with hard drug abuse, people with severe mental illness on the streets, or veterans dealing with trauma. But in Japan, that's just not the case. The substances you'll see are mostly alcohol and tobacco, not heavy-duty drugs.
So why? Why is it so different? Well, it kind of boils down to a few really big things. For one, hard drugs are just super hard to come by in Japan. The country also has a very traditional approach to mental health care, which means people with serious issues are usually in institutions, not on the street. And, of course, Japan hasn't been in a major war since World War II, so there isn't that population of traumatized vets.
Okay, so if those common stereotypes don't fit, then who are we actually talking about? Who are the people experiencing homelessness in Japan? Let's try to paint a clearer picture.
The first thing that just jumps right out at you is the gender split. It is overwhelmingly male. We're talking like 98%. And that's not a coincidence. It's really a result of how Japanese society and its welfare system are set up, which tends to be a safety net for women, especially moms, in a way it just isn't for men.
So, the typical profile, if you could make one, is an older guy, probably in his 50s. He didn't get a lot of formal education, and he likely came to the big city from the countryside a long time ago for work. What kind of work? Usually as a day laborer in construction. And today, he lives a pretty hidden life, setting up camp in places like parks or along riverbanks where he can stay out of sight.
So what happened? How did so many men end up in this situation? Well, a huge part of the story goes back to the early 90s, when Japan's famous bubble economy just burst. The crash absolutely wiped out the construction industry, which was the #1 employer for these day laborers. And just like that, the jobs vanished. And for thousands of them living in cheap company dorms, their homes vanished right along with them.
There's another way people end up on the streets too, and that's debt. Specifically, debt from something called sarakin. It's basically slang for loan sharks who charge insane interest rates. The shame and the constant harassment from collectors gets so bad that for some people, the only option feels like just disappearing. Becoming homeless is their way of hiding from it all.
Now, you'd think in a country as organized as Japan, there would be a really clear official way to get off the streets. And you'd be right, there is. There's a formal, structured system designed to do just that. So let's take a look at how it's supposed to work.
So it's a two-step process. Step 1, you get into an emergency shelter. This is for the basics: a bed, food, a shower, maybe see a doctor. You can stay there for up to a couple of months. Then, the idea is to move to Step 2, a self-reliant support center. These are for longer stays, like 4 to 6 months, and they're all about getting you back on your feet with job training and help with interviews.
I mean, on paper, that sounds pretty good, right? A logical path forward. But if this system is in place, why are so many people still stuck? Why is getting actual permanent housing so incredibly difficult? Well, it all comes down to one giant, almost impossible roadblock.
6 months rent. Just let that sink in. That's how much cash you might need to come up with, all at once, just to get the keys to a simple little apartment. Even if you manage to find a job while you're in the shelter, saving up that kind of money is, well, for most people, it's just not going to happen.
And you're probably wondering, how on earth does it add up so fast? Okay, so you've got your usual stuff, a security deposit, the first month's rent, a fee for the real estate agent. But the real killer, the thing that makes it unique, is something called gift money. It's basically a non-refundable thank you gift to the landlord that can be 1 or 2 months' rent. It's a cultural thing, and it's a massive barrier.
So what else is there? Well, there are places called doyas, which are basically cheap flop houses. You can get a room for the night, no questions asked. And then there's public housing, but there's nowhere near enough of it. It's all based on a lottery. And if you're a single man, you're at the very bottom of the list. Your chances are slim to none. So, the government system has its limits, and the housing market is almost impossible to get into. This is where the story takes a really wild, unexpected turn. because this gap has created an opening for a new and pretty controversial kind of player, the so-called poverty business.
So what are these? A lot of them are nonprofits, NPOs, that look like they're helping. They'll find a guy on the street, help him get cleaned up. They'll even get him a lawyer to help him apply for welfare benefits. But here's the catch. The moment those monthly government checks start coming in, the NPO takes almost all of it, like 80 or 90% for rent and food and their own private shelters.
The math here is just staggering. An NPO might rent a tiny 2-room apartment for, say, 60,000 yen a month. Then they'll put a flimsy wall down the middle, cram 4 guys in there, and collect about 80,000 yen from each of their welfare checks. So they're pulling in 320,000 yen on a 60,000 yen expense. It's an incredibly profitable business operating in this gray area.
All right, let's zoom all the way out for a second. When you put all these pieces together, the official system, the insane housing costs, these new poverty businesses, you start to see this deep conflict. It's like society is in this constant push and pull with its own homeless population.
On one hand, you have the pull. This is the system trying to bring people back in. It's the emergency shelters, the support centers, the job training programs. There is a real, genuine effort being made to offer people a way back into society.
But at the very same time, you have this incredibly strong push. This is society trying to make homeless people invisible. It's the evictions from parks, tearing down tents and shacks, and even installing what's called hostile architecture. You know, like benches with extra armrests put there specifically so no one can sleep on them.
And this quote just says it all. Even those poverty businesses, as exploitative as they are getting thousands of people off the street. It's not a simple good guys versus bad guys story. It's this messy mosaic with some good things and some really bad things all mixed together.
Which really brings us back to our big question. At the end of the day, is homelessness in Japan a problem of not enough houses? Or is it something deeper? Is it maybe a problem of a society that values conformity so highly that it just doesn't know what to do with people who don't or can't fit the mold?